So I had some issues this week with my South American cichlid display tanks. I had some cichlid aggression gone wrong, and let's just say it was a big old fail.
Made a huge tiny mistake.
Let me explain. My largest two aquariums here have been running relatively smoothly for years now. My 180-gallon aquarium on the right has some large adult South American cichlids, which are around 4 to 5 years old, and I recently moved my Nicaraguan cichlid to a new home. So this is now a true South American cichlid tank. Outside of the Bella shark, that is. The Oscar is definitely the tank boss, and he doesn't really harm any of the Sebrums, Walrus, or Geophagus, but I do have fake plants in this tank since a few of the species would destroy them in no time. But on the other side of the corner in my 150-gallon custom aquarium, things have gone really well over the first 2 years for this tank. My Geophagus Sveni group have grown into very large, stunning fish, along with some large electric blue acara, a 6-year-old Geophagus, an albino hecali, 2 angelfish, and a few plecos. All of these fish are rather peaceful, and for cichlids they do pretty well with plants, so I do have a few hardy plants like Anubias, and they've really grown in over the last 2 years. These plants keep nitrates very low in the tank, so I do far less water changes in this tank than some of my others. And I always like the idea of having 2 big South American cichlid display tanks here, because if I had aggression in one tank, I can move cichlids to the other, as long as they didn't eat the live plants. I did that with my Geophagus when I moved it from my 180 to the 150, and I moved an electric blue acara from the 150 to the 180, when I needed to break up a breeding pair. But things have been going so smoothly in these tanks that I thought I was in the clear until this week.
Something not that chill happened last night.
A few days ago I was doing water changes on my fish room aquariums and just monitoring some of the fish very closely, and then I saw it. So the last couple days I noticed that one of the big Geophagus Sveni, the big male, the one with the really cool red coloration, has just kind of been hanging out towards the bottom of the tank, kind of close to the substrate, just not looking great, and only coming out whenever I'm feeding the tank. And I noticed this other male was kind of stressing him out, picking at him, chasing him around the tank, and it kind of escalated the last couple days, and today he's just not looking great. And it's one of my favorite fish, probably maybe the most beautiful fish I currently have, with that awesome red and silver, and I really don't want to lose him to aggression. So I'm going to attempt to take him out of the 150 and put him into the 180. Obviously not an ideal situation, but I think he can fit in here for the short term, especially because I just removed the Nicaraguan cichlid, and as I was just talking, that male just chased one of the geos, so he's becoming a problem.
And stop pointing fingers. You're a problem. You're a real problem.
And I might move him, I might move the other one, maybe just whoever I can catch. So let's get to it. So this is just a sped up 30-second clip of what actually took me around 30 to 40 minutes to complete, and I didn't really intend to film any of this, but my camera was already set up on the tripod, so I thought, why not? Finally, after nearly destroying the whole tank trying to catch him, I got one of the geos and got it into the 180-gallon. Excited to have this finally completed, I looked into the tank and realized I caught the wrong fish, and it's one of the big females.
The biggest little mistake I've ever made.
I think I just stared in stunned silence for a minute, trying to think how I let that happen. It was a mess. Okay, so I turned the lights off in the 180, but that was obviously a total fail. I got a female instead of the male, and I kind of destroyed the tankscape here. I tried to put it back as best as I could, but as you can see, these are the 2 males that I was trying to catch one of, and I just effectively stressed them out even more. And as you can see here, this piece of Anubias that was on the driftwood up here broke off as I was trying to catch them, so I'm going to try and glue that back. I really like the Anubias that was growing up the driftwood, so that's kind of a bummer. And the other thing that's a bit ironic is I just posted a video on the top 10 most aggressive South American cichlids, and the Geophagus Sveni were not on that list. It's almost like they're mocking me because I didn't add them on the list. And usually they're a very peaceful fish, especially for one of the bigger geos, but this just kind of comes with the territory with cichlids. When you get big adult males or a male to female ratio that's not ideal. You can run into issues like this, but hopefully we'll get it all under control. I'm gonna maybe try and catch them on my next water change, and then maybe get that female back in this tank. But I don't even know if I'm gonna show this video because I'm pretty embarrassed by it, but hopefully these guys will do just fine overnight. I'm gonna turn the lights off early. Hopefully they all settle down, and maybe even just moving one of the females will settle them down for a little bit, maybe changing the hierarchy a little, but hopefully we'll get one of those males into the 180 here soon. We'll see. Wish me luck. Okay, so it was a couple days later, and in a weird turn of events, the Geophagus Sveni have really calmed down here, even the two males that were fighting. You'll see right here that the original one that was really struggling, this one was hiding out and just really stressed, breathing heavy, and now it's doing just fine in the tank. And then when you look at the 180 over here, this Geophagus just looks stunning in this tank with the different lighting. Just a beautiful Geophagus Sveni. And it's also interesting to see how big it looks in this tank. When you go from glass to acrylic, sometimes it plays a little trick on your eyes. And I didn't realize how big the Geophagus Sveni are in my 150 until I pulled this one out and put it in the 180. So I love the look of this one Geophagus Sveni in here. Obviously it will do well with the sand substrate, and even though the 180 is a little more crowded than I want it to be right now, I think it's something that I'll probably keep like it is for now. I'll just kind of monitor the aggression in the 150 and see if I make any types of changes to the 180. But there's also some bigger updates to come where some of these guys might get even bigger tanks. Don't want to give too much away there, but I think for now, for the short term, maybe the next few months, this will probably be the home of this one Geophagus Sveni, and I will keep a close eye on these males over here. So even though that was a pretty dumb mistake and I pretty much destroyed the aquascape in the 150 and stressed out a lot of my fish, in the end everything turned out pretty much okay. I get to enjoy a beautiful Geophagus Sveni now in the 180, as well as the rest of the group in the 150. And it may have been that change in hierarchy or the confusion of everything that went on, but the cichlids have really settled down and have been super peaceful the last few days, and I've been watching both tanks like a hawk. One thing I could have done differently was drain the water in the big tanks to help catch the fish, but I had just completed 6 water changes in my fish room, and my warm water was running out, and it was getting late at night when I noticed the Geophagus struggling. I've seen cichlids look like that Geo before, and they hadn't lasted long after, so I knew I had to act quickly that night. I didn't get the worst of the fighting on camera, by the way, but just trust me, the Geos were going absolutely nuts. So how am I going to fix this situation? Well, in the 150, I'm just going to try and reattach that piece of driftwood and that big Anubias plant using some wire to tie it in place, and hopefully it will look like it did before. And I could drain the water in both tanks, try to catch the one in the 180 again, and try not to destroy my scape again in the 150. And I might still do that if the aggression starts back up again, but for now, I think we're good, and I think we're back to some relatively peaceful tanks.
We are back, baby.
So I know this isn't my typical type of video, but luckily my camera was rolling and I caught a lot of the footage of what was happening. But I'm definitely not perfect. I make mistakes like all of you, and hopefully you can learn from it, or you just found some entertainment in this video, especially because the fish are fine and ultimately nothing went wrong. They just had a few hours of sheer terror with me trying to catch them with a net, but overall things are completely fine now. And if you're curious about that random hint I dropped in the middle of the video, you can join the membership channel below. I'll be posting a video on behind the scenes, what's going to be happening. It's a major update, probably my biggest one yet, so you'll be able to hear it ahead of time before anyone else, and I'm really excited to share that. But otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.